Yeah, my name is Lee Schoolland because I'm married to a Schoolland from Holland. Originally, my name is Lee Zhao. In China, or most Asian countries, Zhao first, family name go first, Lee goes second. So my name is Zhao Li. I am made in China during the Great Leap Forward. Can anyone tell me when is the Great Leap Forward? You thought about it, right?
yeah, we talked about it. So
what era? 1940, 50, 60, 70, 18? 40? 50? 60? Okay, no extra credit. No chocolate for you today. It's 1958, 57, 58, 59, 3 years, and Great Leap Forward. And the Communist Party, Chairman Mao, believed China can be turned into a world economic power overnight just by producing a lot of iron and steel. So that's why it's called Great Leap Forward, a big jump from the poorest country in the world to the economic power aligned with United States and Great Britain. So he imagined China can jump. How? Just by producing enough iron, as much as United States produce or Great Britain produce. And China didn't have that much natural resources, didn't have a lot of technology to do so, but Mao says, human is power. Actually, he said, yeah, people are power, and people will overcome God. God didn't create the universe well enough. We people, we will correct God's mistake. We can move mountains, we can correct the rivers, and we can produce a lot of iron overnight. So the whole country, everybody stopped doing whatever they're doing, students, professors, doctors, singers, dancers, whoever, stop what they're doing and get together to make iron. For professors and students, how are you going to make iron? Do you know how? Yeah, the Chinese at that time, they didn't know how either. My mother was a university professor, so in China, your workplace provides housing for you. So we live on campus. So I was watching the professors and students to make iron. So first they said, okay, we need to build a thermos. So they get bricks and stones and mud, and they build a little small thing. And we need to burn something. We don't have anything to burn. Oh, good. These are tables and chairs. And they first cut down all the trees, then table and chairs. Then what do we burn? We don't have an iron ore. Okay, let's see, what is made of iron in your house? Your cooking pots and your doorknobs, your locks, all taken down, and burn the chairs and tables to melt those things, already put a product into something, just like a piece of whatever. And then they weighed it, they said, oh, we got 5 kilos of iron. They counted and they marched to this government office, contribute 5 kilos of iron we made. That's how they add everything together. They think they can make enough to surpass United States and Great Britain of their iron production. I think elementary school students, kids will know that's a joke. But in China, they didn't think it was a joke. If you think it was a joke, if you say anything against it, you're in prison or you'll be executed. That's the Great Leap Forward. Because of that, people stopped doing whatever, farmers, factory workers, so there's no production of other things. So the Great Famine came about after that, because we're severely lack of food and products. Trees are cut down, chairs and tables are burned, and also they told everybody, say, we should all eat together, so you don't need your own cooking utensils. You burn it into iron. So everybody ate together. When you all know, even though you're not running a household yet, but you watch your mother, your grandmother, you know, they will budget what you have. You don't go every day to eat lobsters or go to the most expensive restaurants. You budget. But when you all eat together, nobody budget. They will say, oh, everybody, every day is a feast. Every day is banquet. And also, everybody have to give up their food from their house to the community, so it can be cooked and eat together in a big cafeteria. So at the first 2 weeks, everybody was so happy. They can eat whatever, they can eat all, until they couldn't even move. They said, this is true communism, so beautiful. Very soon, all the food are gone, and nobody's producing. So, the Great Famine came, and the government didn't want to take the responsibilities. They said, it's the birds and the insects. They're eating our food. So we have to eliminate 4 bad species, whatever. Mosquitoes, yeah, pests. Mosquitoes, flies, birds, and I don't know what's the other 4. So we were kids, we were all ordered to go out to kill birds. And we get rewarded by how many birds we bring it to the local office, and we get a ribbon. And some people had shotguns that time, I guess, for hunting. They shoot birds, but mostly kids with slingshots. And for us, what we did was the end of the day, we go to the roof of the house or climb the tree and make something, use something we can make noise. So when the birds came home to rest after the day, we make so much noise, and the birds couldn't land. So they just kept flying until they were so tired and dropped dead. That's how we eliminated all the birds. We did, very successfully. And then no birds to eat the insects. And the insects, especially locusts, just wiped out all the crops. And the Great Famine came in 1960, 61, 63. So many people died of starvation. And the government labeled it natural disaster. If you read Chinese history book, you will see the 3 years of natural disaster. That's 1960, 61, 63. People, almost all the people, they were swollen. When you're extremely starved, you become swollen. You probably drink too much water, I guess. And people have no energy to do anything. They mostly just sit there or lay in bed, and there's no production. My father was a doctor. He was called to the village. The village chief is about to die. And so he visited his home, and he's laying there, couldn't talk, couldn't move. His belly was like this, very hard. So my father asked, said, what happened to him? The family said he was village chief. That time the communists are still very supposedly good people. He let other people eat food. So he was starving, and until he couldn't do it anymore, so he was laying in bed, he was taking the pillow, just stuff himself with the pillow. The Asian pillows, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, they all use barley husks. Those are things. So it got in, cannot get out. So he was all stuck in his stomach. He's about to die. So, of course, the doctor took it out, and it was a bucket full, my father said. It's not the isolated situation. There's a theft became very common. What kind of theft? People go to the village or the government warehouse to take some food, especially kids. Grown up, they suffered, but they don't dare to do anything about it. But the kids, when they're hungry, they know where something's edible. They want to go there and get it. And one child, 9 years old, went to the warehouse in the village and grabbed one handful of grain, ate it, and he got caught. And the village ordered his father to bury him alive. Because that time China already have no more bullet to shoot people, no more knives to chop your head off. They bury you alive. That's the common thing. They ordered the father to bury his child alive because he took one handful of grain. And the father did. After that, the father committed suicide because he couldn't take it. These are in the book by Dakota. He wrote 3 books. One is The Great Famine, The Great Cultural Revolution, Mao's Cultural Revolution or something. Frank the Coastal, right? He lives in the United States now, a German. He went to all the archives of the villages and collect those information. So we heard about those things too. And then the government said, we have to be innovative. Not only the greens and vegetables edible, everything could be edible. So start teaching people to eat tree barks, how to get the bark out of the tree. And we all learned how to find the grass, whichever is not poisonous and whichever is edible, to get it. And I told Joseph, 2 days ago I went to Prague, walked to the castle, and on the way, normally you go look at the castle, the river. My friend and I, we were looking at the ground, oh, vegetables. So she has a bag. We were collecting edible leaves from your sidewalk. That's how we grew up. So we became that way. And then after that, in 1965, China, just like Russia did, a short period, they said, we can't, everybody's dying of starvation and this and that, and we should do something about it. So they allowed people to rent a small piece of land from the village and grow something for themselves. So 1965 was the year of recovery, and people start to have food to eat. I didn't tell you, during this whole time, the political correctness movement is still going on. If you say something against whatever the Great Leap Forward or the government policy, planned economy, you're in prison, mostly just executed. And also, if you're not that severe, you will be labeled rightist on the right side, rightist. And then you will be put into labor camp. From 1955 to 1958, most of the educated people labeled rightist and put in labor camp. And there's a famous area near Xinjiang. Today it's still heavily guarded, 70 years later, still heavily guarded because too many, the elite of Chinese intellectuals were put there to die. They were given nothing. They were just sent there by the hundreds, and they have to find a way to survive on their own. They didn't know how to farm because they were engineers, doctors. They studied in Harvard and MIT, and they went back to China to help China to modernize, to develop, to build a new country, and they were all abandoned there. The end story is they start eating each other. One person died of starvation and supposedly to be buried. Other people just went there and divided the body and ate it. It's all known, it's documented, because some people kept journal, diary. That's why that area is still forbidden for anybody to go, even take pictures. And recently, some brave people, they just drive by and put, cell phone now, very convenient, and took some pictures, but it's just the area. You can't really get there to collect the bones and do DNA and see who was there, But that's happening at the same time, 1950s, 1960s. So 1965, the life was a little better. In Shanghai, especially, people have a tradition of capitalized westernization and capitalism. So people start to play music, jazz music, start dancing, girls start perm their hair and wear lipstick, because they still had it from a long time ago, the 1940s, before the communists. And the communists said, no, those are wrong thing. 1966, the Great Cultural Revolution started. To kill all the old. Old is the traditional Chinese culture plus all the newly introduced to China capitalist, westernized culture and costume, fashion, color, whatever, all eliminated. It sounds very familiar today, the cancel culture, the Black Lives Matters. It's so similar because they say you have to be politically correct. So I think in this room, probably only one person's hair is qualified for the communist standard. And none of your clothes are qualified because you have color, have style, have zippers or whatever. Yeah. If that time they have the tight pants was fashion. Sometimes a belt button, sometimes tight. That time, the tight pants was fashionable. So the Red Guard will walk on the street with a beer bottle. From Czech, you have a lot of those. They walk and they will put the beer bottle from here up. If the beer bottle cannot go in, they cut your pants, shred it. You go home without pants. And your hair, colored or curled, and they cut it. It's just like this, walking on the street. Cultural Revolution lasted 10 years. I don't have a lot of time to go through all the details. I think your teacher will walk you through. There's a lot of documentaries and movies and books. But I just mentioned a couple of things. They divided people into black and red. I belong to black. I was born a black kid. And a lot of people thought it was really funny. The blacks, at the beginning, it's 5 blacks and 5 reds. I don't know what are reds because I never was red, so I knew why we're black. Landowners, rich people, you're all rich people. I knew because you probably have a car and you have a house, Landowners, rich people, you have a small business, you're rich people. Anti-revolutionary. Number 4, bad people. That's a joke, bad people. We always jokingly today we say, oh, you're number 4. Because you can label anybody bad. If I don't like you, you're bad, right? And then the number 5 is rightist, the ones labeled rightist from 1955 to 1958. So these are 5 blacks. My family, 3 generations before me, they're rich and famous. They're top 1% in the society. They're capitalists. They're educated. They're government officials. They're landowners. So 8 generations, they count. If 8 generations, anybody have anything to do with this 5 category, you're black. So I have no escape. I didn't do anything. My ancestors' wealth and properties all confiscated. We didn't benefit anything. I was hungry during the same time, as everybody else, but we're still black. When we're going to the train station, there's like 2 gates, red gates and black gates. So we were walking the black gates. I was asking my mom, I said, why do we have to walk this gate? We look the same in China. We look the same. I said, why can't we pretend to be red? And so we can not be, people cannot just randomly hit us, or we can get onto the train early and, or maybe get seat. My mom said, you don't dare, because they can tell from your manner. And also, they will ask you a question. When you open your mouth, you speak perfect language with correct grammar or something. They will know. If they know you pretend, beat you to death. You don't even want to take a chance. So in school, already they don't teach any liberal arts, music, history, geography, philosophy. No, these are forbidden. Only history was allowed with communist history, all fabricated. It's not real history. And for black kids, you cannot join any extracurricular activities such as storytelling, crafts, sewing, knitting, whatever. We're not allowed to. I still don't read music because we were never allowed to learn. So that's how we were treated. And the Red Guard will come to our house and ransack everything, take everything they think is not communist. Our dishes, my parents' clothes, my father had more than 1 pair of shoes, they all burned it, our pictures, everything. They just took it and burned it and make me watch. And they made me watch them beat my mother. It just go on for 10 years. And our family, in 1969, our family was exiled to a remote village, just like the Soviet time you go to the Siberia. We were too. We were sent to a very remote village. No running water, no electricity. I didn't have shoes for years. 1 set of clothes, almost no food. So I was we were in the countryside. And the peasants, I thought, oh, we're in the countryside. Maybe we can have some food to eat because we became farmers. We plant rice. Then the reality was the opposite. People were so poor. The farmers, my neighbor, they have 6 children in the family, 2 adults, 8 people have 1 pair of pants. Whoever leave the house wear that pants. They're already padded. You don't even know the original color. They have cooked rice 1 time a year, not 1 time a day, 1 time a year cooked rice, solid. The rest of the year is just big pot of water with a handful of rice. You can't even count the grains in the soup. You just keep drinking. And you're not allowed to have even an inch of land belong to yourself. So you cannot plant vegetables. And what do you eat? They have some salt. Put some pepper and ginger and dip your chopsticks in the salt and drink the rice water. That's farmers. So I started to ask myself, I said, why? At very young age, I realized the reason for that is plant economy. Because the central government tell us, thousands of miles away, tell us what to plant. They don't know anything about our soil. They don't know anything about our climate. They don't know anything about our water resources. They just told us to plant certain food and demand certain harvest to turn it to the government. The food they asked us to plant doesn't grow in our area. So we couldn't produce that much. Every year, at the end of the year, we give to the government not enough to meet the quota. So the peasants have nothing left and borrow some food from the government, very little. That's only because it's a planned economy. The peasants know what to grow. In that area, we lived sugarcane, peanuts, tobacco, and fruit trees. But those are cash crops, not allowed because no market was allowed, no exchange was allowed. So everybody was dirt poor. Now I'm going to fast forward to the so-called China miracle. A lot of people said there's a China miracle. Deng Xiaoping did some economic reform, some policy, so China really did a great leap forward from poverty to prosperity. Okay, from surface it's true, but the reality was at the end of middle of 1970, the whole country was starving. And there's a book called Maos, the Untold Story. They said the average intake of calorie for everybody in China was lower than the Jews in the concentration camp. That's the fact. Everybody in China have a lower calorie intake than the prisoners in the Nazi concentration camp. So Mao died. People dared to say something different. So Deng Xiaoping came and said he can't do anything. He inherited this situation. And at that time, there's a village called Xiaogang. This village, the village chief, he can't tolerate watching everybody dying of starvation. He said, okay, what I'm going to do is I've equally divided all the land in our village by head, household. You grow whatever you see fit. And you give the village certain amount, you keep the rest. And you can exchange. If you have cabbage, you have corn, you have wheat, you can exchange. Do whatever you can. Immediately, people have incentive. This is my land. Even if you don't have an ownership, I have a right to use it. They know what will grow in their particular piece of land, by the river, in the mountain, or whatever. So in one season, not only everybody have food to eat, they have extra. They exchange. They exchange their corn to eggs. They use eggs to change to vegetable and to pork and to even clothes. And the neighboring village saw it. Some said, okay, we're going to do this. And some said, no, no, no. The central government didn't give us permission. We shouldn't do anything. We'd rather starve. We can't do anything against the central government. So it was divided. But the central government said, okay, this is a good model. Go ahead. That is the China miracle. Government didn't do nothing. They just stopped doing something. They stopped telling people what to do. Stop plan the economy for these bottom level peasants. They still control the economy, plan the economy for cities and for industries for some, until today. So China, so-called China miracle is like that. We call it cross the river by touching. Government didn't build a bridge for people to cross from poverty to prosperity. They let the people cross the river by touching the stone. Okay, here is a stone, I step. Here's another. That's how China developed. Isn't that it would be easier for the government just allow people to build a bridge or build a bridge? No, they didn't. So they really didn't do much at all. Now, today, China's going backwards in the record speed. Why I say this? A lot of land in China, farmland, turned into buildings and cities and factories. And just this year, at the beginning of this year, Xi Jinping had, from the central government, said China has to have 800 million hectares of farmland. No, 1,800 million hectares farmland is the bottom line. And among this 1,800 hectares, 800 hectares have to be prime farmland to be able to feed Chinese population. But China doesn't have that many farmland or prime farmland. So it's TikTok is everywhere, and a cell phone is everywhere. People take pictures of parking lots, streets, highways, growing vegetables, and say, wow, what kind of new technology? That's amazing. Then you take a close look, is because they don't have that much land, the government ordered you have that land, so they start putting topsoil on parking lots and streets, cement areas, and to plant something easy, shallow root kind of thing, lettuce and things. So when the government came with a drone to survey the area, oh, green, oh, they have something growing. So you can pass that. So that's the situation in China right now. They reintroduced the planned economy even back to the countryside. And just today, before I came here, I saw this TikTok. In Beijing, they started this community stores. In the past, it's the stores, they government control the supply and the demand. Now they don't just control one side, they control both sides. They give you quotas, how much you can buy, and then they, according to their understanding, they supply to the store. This kind of store just came back today. They say Beijing started, everybody said, oh my gosh, it's going to come back to everywhere because everybody modeling after Beijing. And because Beijing always correct, following the party line. And those before we didn't have shops. We just called supply and demand and distribution station. So you get your little ticket for one box of matches, one bar of soap, and maybe 2 yards of fabric, you can make a clothes, something like that. Everything was rationed in China. One shower a month, one haircut a month, and government is in your life in every aspect. And now it's gradually coming back. It's scary. Because in China today, it's extremely lack of energy, extremely lack of cash, and short of food. There's a joke just last week said, government said now we're in a very special time. So we have to stand by the country. And the U.S. always the biggest enemy. The U.S. is damaging us. And we have to fight. So we have to tighten the belt. And then the guys to the government said, can we get the belt? Tighten the belt is a saying from when I was growing up. Always tell us to tighten the belt. And they don't have cash. They keep printing money. And Professor Shima will tell you from the economics, for the past 10 years, the supply of RMB, Chinese currency, increased 20 times. In 10 years, 20 times. US in 10 years increased doubled. And people were already saying, it's terrible, this inflation and everybody. Chinese, 20 times. So what do? They introduce digital currency now. You all heard about that. That's the most dangerous thing. If you have any ways, you have to say no to it. Yourself say no, you tell everybody you know say no, you post it on your social media, you say no. Because one function for that is they covered up the printing of money. So they can increase without limitation. Number two, through that, they monitor every single thing in your life because every single thing involves your spending. You take the bus, you take the train, you buy a toothpaste, you buy clothes, you travel, you buy a train ticket. Every single thing in your life, every day, you have to do something with your money. So they know. They know what you do, where you go, what you like to eat, who you buy gifts for, where the gifts sent to, your relatives, they know their address. You pick up delivery. They collect every single information through this digital currency. In China, people's already under that kind of civilian society, the social credit system, but they're trying to get into the world. If you use it, oh, it's convenient. They tell you how convenient it is. It is. And you get discount on things. It is. But those are these guys. What they want is your information and control your life. And they can do with those information, you will be surprised what they can do with this information. So, say no to that. Just like TikTok. So little people say no to TikTok. Chinese government owns everything you did on TikTok. If you read the fine print, it says there, Chinese government owns it. Not only the ones you posted. Before you post it, the ones you're editing, they have that too. They kept that too. So it's very, very dangerous. And Russia, now the sanctions from the West, Visa stopped letting Russian Visa card have US dollar transactions to, for their punish Russia. Immediately, China, Alipay and UnionPay said, use our credit card. We give you US dollar. So China is in there now. And they benefit from this. It's the most dangerous country in the world right now is China. People ask me, how about we boycott Chinese goods? I said, no, these are made by individuals, entrepreneurs. You boycott, you don't hurt the Chinese government. Chinese government have a larger agenda on you. And the Chinese economy, we call it paper tiger. Chairman Mao started using that word in 1946. They said U.S. is always the enemy of the people. It's a paper tiger, looks fierce, threatening, but it's paper. You poke your finger, the tiger is gone, right? So they always use for United States, but right now, people like me, a lot of Chinese people, we say Chinese economy is a paper tiger. It's very, very vulnerable, but they have other ways to try to gain more credit and more power. The pandemic gave them a lot of leverage because the whole world imitated China with a mask, with lockdown. It proved it doesn't do anything. China, look at Shanghai. But gave about time for Xi Jinping for 3 years. So otherwise, it won't last that long. But anyways, okay, I'm good at keeping time. Any questions? I jump a lot, but I knew your professors and your readings will fill out the gaps. I'm just giving you a big picture.
So thanks a lot for your talk and for very interesting insights. Really, let's open it to your questions so that you can ask. And we were talking about Great Leap Forward and cultural revolution previously, so some background has already been established before. And it's also an interesting topic, let's say the economic topic and economic transformation, because we don't do it in this particular course, which is really introduction to China studies, but we do it at master's level in a different, later on in different course. But I think there are a lot of interesting questions, topics for discussion. So if any of you would like to ask, just feel free to raise your hand and ask about anything, I think, or just to raise any comment or follow up to what has been said in previous minutes. So, if I can, I will just, I'm going to give the other ones the mic, because we have just two of them. Maybe if you would like to take this one. So it's not that bad, it's quite okay.
Okay.
And I will give this one to you.
No, it just...
It's on, so you can...
It's on?
Just
Okay, so no, I just have a question, because you spoke about China, it's keeping your data from TikTok and these things. So what can they do is...
Good question. They cannot do too much with you. If you posted, you had a beer with friends and this and that. But for the Chinese, they can do a lot. And they can put you in prison. They can confiscate all your properties. And they can take the job from you, take your bank account. But for foreigners, unless you don't do anything, but if you, one day you say something like, oh, I support Hong Kong, free Hong Kong. Last time, 2019, I was in Prague. I saw these flags on the street, free Hong Kong, in one of the districts. I was so impressed. And those on the telephone poles, those flags in the city, if you happen to have a picture with that, they can forbid you from going to China. And if you, in the future, you want to do business with China or something, you never know. They hold it for a long, long time. And they don't forget. They don't forget, they don't forgive.
Okay, just a quick one on TikTok, because I think it's a very interesting case, because TikTok tried to do kind of big damage limitation, especially when the kind of tech war and mutual punishments or mutual sanctions between the United States and China kind of erupted. So TikTok tried to do kind of really damage limitation, and they try to do their best to kind of place their data on servers placed in the United States or outside China. But still, I think there is the kind of the general problem when it comes to technologies and China tech companies, is that basically there is actually a law that requires all the companies to cooperate with Chinese government if the government asks them to basically to do something to provide data. Still TikTok, I think they try to do their best to kind of save their reputation. So I think when it comes to social networks or social media, perhaps they are kind of more kind of dangerous, I would say, social media in China. I'm not sure if the TikTok is kind of the worst one, but thanks for the comment. Or if you,
yeah, TikTok, because it's international. That's why I warn people. Like India, they knew, so they banned TikTok. President Trump was going to ban, but then there's some lobbyists who has China connection with for their business. They told Trump not to, so Trump stopped. He was going to ban TikTok. And there's one example, one scholar from Switzerland went to China, was invited by the Chinese university to give talks and everything. Then at the airport leaving China, he was detained, put in prison for 3 days without any, lawyer present. And they don't say anything. They didn't even charge him. He just disappeared. And finally, he protested, and he has no way to contact outside the world. Finally, they brought a piece of paper with an article he published in a very small journal in German language in Switzerland. And there's mention of Hong Kong democracy. He was like pro Hong Kong, not even very clear. They said, "Is this you? Wrote this article?" He was so surprised. The Chinese have enough people to read everything published in the world, even German language. He said the readership was like a few hundred. Just because of that, he was put in prison in China. But fortunately, he said, "Yeah, I did it. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I won't do it again." So they let him go. Not because they read it. They search your name. Now everything attached to people's name, your location, your address, and everything. Your picture. You take a picture with Google. They have all the information where you took it, when. So the Chinese try to get into these information. They cannot get to the Google information, but they can get it through TikTok.
Okay, so we have another question.
So just to continue the topic of TikTok, and we know that TikTok is a huge phenomenon in the world, and after those consequences that you mentioned that could happen to Chinese people, is it such a big phenomenon even in China, or is it just the world and Chinese being a bit worried about the consequences that could happen to them?
Oh no, big worry in China. I have a lot of friends. They told me everything I post, they say, "We like what you post." Like I post Prague, the beautiful bridge, and the beer I drink, the food I eat. They say, "We don't dare to click the like." There's a like thing. And because we don't want people to know I'm associated with you. I'm an unwatched person in China by the Chinese government, so they're so afraid. They don't even. One guy he said, not with WeChat is Chinese social media, even on Facebook. He lives in the United States. He's afraid. He said, "I don't like anything you post. You know how much I love you, but I just can't like anything you post or make comments because I still have my parents live in China." They're afraid to that extent. Yeah, people disappear. People get executed, imprisoned. Daily thing. Many people I knew. Yeah, one guy, he's so funny. When he was released from prison, he was leaving. He told the guard, "See you later," because he knew he's going to come back again. That's how they live.
Yeah, if I can just one more question, that's such a coincidence that we know that Facebook was, as far as I remember, it was banned in China, right? So they don't want to provide any information of the Chinese to the world,
Google,
but they
yes.
ban, or they sort of gather the information of the Chinese, So it's such a coincidence that could happen in the world. Yeah, thank you.
No, but the VPN is illegal in China, but the communist government use it all the time because 2020, I think, in the beginning, when the Hong Kong thing happened, I did an interview with somebody, and they posted the interview on my Facebook page and put the Chinese label, Free Hong Kong. I did not even say that. And the interview was in English. They thought it was cute because I'm Chinese, so they learned, I don't know where they learned the Chinese character. They put the Chinese label, Free Hong Kong, there. Within a week, I got phone calls from my friends in the government ask me about it. I didn't even see it. I went to see, oh yeah. I said, oh, somebody else posted. I said, you don't understand Facebook. Other people can post it on your page. I didn't post it, which is truth, but I didn't say I don't agree with it. I didn't say that. And they said, it went to very high level because you always take economists, professors like Professor Simon went to China to teach. And they said, oh, look at her, she's talking about this, what are we going to do? Can we still have her back and this and that? So other people, my friends just hinted, so can you take it down? And can you defriend all the Chinese in your friends, followers? So I did that. They monitor me anywhere. You can't really hide. I just have to be brave. Just do it.
Can I have I know about you. Can I have just a quick question, a follow-up question regarding, let's say, Facebook and potentially some other Western social media networks? Because from what I know, a lot of people in China were using Facebook quite on a regular basis. I have a couple of friends in China, and we were chatting through Facebook. They were using Facebook at least up until 2013, 14, 15. It was kind of typical stuff that quite a lot of people in China were doing that. So if you know, or if you try to compare how much it got worse or more complicated for people to basically use social media like Facebook, meaning like Western social networks, so how it developed, and whether it got worse or what was the turning point when it comes to the regard. And by the way, VPN was not officially illegal up until certain time, but I don't remember the year, but it was like 2015 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, it's illegal now, but they use it. The government use it all the time. And but there's they say illegal, but there's good entrepreneurs. They still provide free VPN for us to take it into China. They specifically say, through Singapore, through Tokyo, through Korea, you can still have it. I still use it. But then every time I use my VPN, my phone just stopped. My battery suddenly from 100% to 1% in 15 minutes. Yeah, they can do that to your phone. And their technology is amazing, but they don't use for advanced our standard of life. They use it to control you. Chinese really have a very advanced technology. Yeah.
Just a quick note. I remember that when I was in Beijing in 2015 and 16. By the way, it was really interesting because at Beijing University, Beida, at some faculties you could approach Facebook and Google really freely. So in some buildings it was possible without VPN. I have not been in Shenzhen.
No,
I have not been there since then.
Yeah,
but just.
Many things when you were there was okay. Now it's all illegal.
To be honest, when I was in China, I also remember we couldn't reach for Google. We used Yahoo, if I'm not mistaken, something like this. So thank you for your lecture, first of all. And I also wanted to ask you, like TikTok, social media, like it's all good, but what about diploma work? If I choose a topic connected to Chinese somehow, could my words be used against me in the future if I would like to reach a visa or just like leave in China?
Yes, this is a double-edged sword. It will hurt you in the future if you want to go to China or have something to do with China. But most harmful is people you are talking to. They will be threatened. They will be in trouble, not just them, their whole family, their whole career, their whole future, their children's school, their parents' work. So I'm very careful. It's not because for me, I'm outside of China, but I'm also always think about the people I'm talking to for their safety, for their sake. I don't randomly say anything, you know. So yeah, be thoughtful to people you're talking to, especially if they're in China or they're Chinese. Yeah, Yahoo used to be a lot of people's email address, and suddenly one day everybody changed their email address because Yahoo doesn't work anymore. So everybody changed. Yeah. Crypto, biggest mining for Bitcoin was in China for many years, and now it's illegal. Mining is illegal, trading is illegal. Using it, of course, never allowed to use it. But for example, I couldn't take my money out of China because Chinese government is so short of cash. They control anybody. If you go to the bank, your own bank account, you want to withdraw some money, they will ask you to prove where are you going to spend this money, and this and that. And they have to say, okay, I said, oh, I'm going to buy a flat in Prague. No, you're not allowed to, even if it's your own money. You cannot take it out from your bank. You cannot, because you're planning to buy a flat in Prague. That kind of thing. So I was so frustrated, so I just changed crypto and put in my wallet outside, you know. In China, that's illegal money laundering. It's a prison term. It's my money. I can do whatever I want with my own money. And since you guys were in China, these kind of things happen daily. Everything became illegal. They have no law. They just make rules. And anything they don't like is illegal.
Do you think that there is any chance, as you were saying, that in some policies and in some ways China is going backwards? Do you think that there is any chance that that would stop?
Hopefully, with the economy, you know, so vulnerable right now, and the current lockdown of Shanghai, people are fed up. Maybe, but on the other hand, we call the Chinese people slave mentality. They were just celebrating with the shekels. They don't say no. They still think the government is salvation when they're starved for 2 weeks, and the government dumps some carrots and cabbage in front of the residential buildings. They were so thankful. Oh, government is so good. So we constantly talking about it. For us outside, and also working for changing the regime of China, we were hopeful, but a lot of people get so discouraged day by day and say there's no hope. But I'm still hopeful. They said it will be another like Deng Xiaoping or Gorbachev instead of, you know, Stalin will change. I don't think that's the way to change. You have to really get rid of the Communist Party. Then things will be different. Have a better Lord. It's not going to be much better. Their Lord over you.
I had a similar question. It was about the situation in Shanghai, and I was wondering if you think that it's going to be even more escalating, or if maybe the government sees that it's really too much and the people start to be angry about it, and maybe it will calm a little?
Very good question. Very complicated, because yesterday I saw this illegal posting blog. This girl, she, you know, their standard for positive is much higher than any country in the world. So if you haven't been anywhere for a month at home, not seeing anybody, you also could be tested positive, because they just want you to be positive. You would be positive because they force you to test it twice a day, something like that. So this girl, she knew things will come like that way, but she still, before they took her away, she went to the street in Shanghai in the dark with the little signs that stop this illegal, endless lockdown, and took some selfies and posted on social media and illegal thing. Then she went back, and of course in the middle of the night they took her away to this big warehouse. Hundreds, thousands of people without any barriers, just like bed after bed, and give you a blanket and sleep in there. And because she's okay to be there, because she said, at least here we don't have to wear masks, we're all positive, and we can go out and see the star. They were happy they got to see the star, so she documented everything. She said, I'm going to be here for a month or so, I'm not going to die. So she was documenting that. And this time in Shanghai, they didn't dare to take the people's cell phone away. In Wuhan, they did. So everybody who went to these warehouses, nobody came out. No information came out, no people came out. Shanghai, at least all the information are coming out, and some people are coming out after certain days. So people are protesting very small scale and mostly demanding for food. And so they're not really anti-government, but they were telling the volunteers, they have a lot of volunteers, they say, your boss shouldn't be bigger than the law, but they don't even know what the law is. They say, you put this sticker on my door saying, you know, you're not allowed to go out, you have no official seal, you have no date, from this date to that date. So it's unlimited. It's all up to you. My life is up to you. So they're really fighting for these people, the volunteers. They're not thinking the government is wrong. That's the sad part. Yeah. Very sad.
I have a question. We know that it is possible for people to be banned from leaving or coming into China. So I wanted to ask you, how did you leave China, and if you can still come back, since you said the government is still watching your steps?
Yeah, good question. I left China in 1984. That time China just opened up and reforming, and very few people left China. And because our family had a lot of connections, half of our family escaped before the communism and took over, and half stayed. So we have a lot of relatives. So we were able to be sponsored. You know, they just signed a paper for us to leave. And so in 1984, I went to United States as a graduate student. I have been to China up to 2019. 2017, 18, 19, I was there almost every other week, every other month, 5-6 times a year, because I have a lot of work to do. I publish, I give talks, and I organize underground things. I'm watched very much. And but after lived through all these cultural revolution and everything, I know how to deal with them, because there's no law. So you can say this and do that. I know, so I can say this and do that. You can't catch me. So my thinking is, I will keep going until the day you won't let me in. And before I was very low-key. Then I realized if I become famous, well-known internationally, if I disappear, somebody will know. Somebody will help me internationally. So I start to make name for myself. So I'm not very well-known, but it's not nobody. And if I keep posting every day on social media, if I don't post it for 5 days, somebody will ask, what happened to you? Where are you? Are you safe? So it's the situation. And there's a young man who did something the government didn't like, a 19-year-old university student. And they detained him many times and asked him questions and this and that. So he was telling me, but he was not, I knew he's not saying everything. So I asked him, I said, what do they ask you? He said, oh, then I'd be more specific. I said, did they ask you about me? He said, yes, the first question. How did you know Lee? And he said, I lied. I just say I was on Facebook with somebody from East Africa, and they knew Lee, so I kind of added her as a friend and this and that. He caused trouble for me. I didn't have anything in their hands, but then they thought I encouraged him to do something illegal. Then he caused trouble for me. So now I don't know. I don't really know. I'm just going to try. Now my visa is, all the visas are canceled. For American used to have 10-year visa to China. So I have to reapply for visa when China reopened again. If they give me visa, I will go. If they don't give me visa, that means I can't. Then I would just have to do something differently. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to let them stop. I'm not going to stop unless, you know, I have to. Do we out of time?
How difficult was it to get to China during COVID, or you did not try during COVID?
We cannot.
Because it was really difficult even for people from different...
Who has a Chinese passport or who has a direct family member, like the girl in Hawaii, she has American passport, but her father had a heart attack. So she applied for humanitarian visa. And she got a visa, but she couldn't get an airplane ticket. So it took her 6 months, $10,000, and she got a ticket to see her father in Beijing. Yeah, and right now, one of my friends, Kin, about 6 months ago, he didn't know things turned so bad. Now he's stuck in Texas and couldn't go back. He doesn't have $10,000, $20,000 to buy a ticket. But his wife and child still there. He couldn't really remain in the United States. Every day he said, Lee, pray for me, pray for me. You know, I need to go back. Yeah, so very, very difficult right now.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Our time is almost up, so we should be ending about the time. So please join me in thanking Lee Schoolland for her very nice talk, an interesting talk. Hope you enjoyed that, and just join me in applauding.
Thank you.